Now, with the discovery of weapons from various parts of the island, across the island actually, it shows how far this terrorist network has been spread. Certain ministers, responsible ministers in the government have come forward and made some amusing statements regarding these discoveries. Now, recently, Minister A.H.M. Halim said that the swords that were discovered at certain locations were brought in to cut shrubs. Also, yesterday, Minister Rauf Hakim said that these swords were kept in possession of certain individuals for their own protection, for self-defense, for defense of their closest family members. Now, comments were made inside and outside of Parliament regarding these statements as well.
A statement was made yesterday saying that there is no problem in keeping swords in a house. So in a few days, they'll tell that there is no problem in having a pistol or a gun in order to guard their children. This is not Chicago, this is Sri Lanka. When swords are found, some say that it is for the safety of women. I have heard that swords are there in the Arab region but not in Sri Lanka. What is the law behind this? I found the law. It says prohibit the carrying of dangerous knives. And it is stated that if found guilty for the possession, a fine is 50 rupees, and if one is found guilty for a second time, the fine is 100 rupees. I believe that these laws should be amended. There are so many swords. Are there women inside mosques for them to have swords? A crime is a crime no matter who does it. Police should arrest those who have swords. There cannot be two laws. A mistake is a mistake.
Now, these statements made by responsible ministers and members of the government have, of course, been subject to public discourse as well. Let's first take a look at the statement made by Minister Rauf Hakim yesterday regarding the discovery of certain weapons from across the country.
When the equipment used by terrorists as well as equipment used by small-time criminals is seized, equipment that has been kept for self-defense is also caught and labeled as such. The Muslim community is portrayed as if they are planning a terrorist attack. The security forces and all communities must view this from a moderate stance.
Now, of course, these statements made without responsibility continue to create more and more problems within the country. Joining us now is Newsfirst's very own Chaturanga Hapuarachi. Chaturanga, the general public are uneasy when these sort of statements are made. What is the basis of this, and where is this going to lead us at the end of the day?
Absolutely, Sharon. Before I want to take a statement from what you said earlier. You said 225 honourable members of Parliament. With your permission, I would like to rephrase and say 225 so-called honourable members of Parliament. These are people who are coming before the general public as if the general public are not wise enough to understand what they are doing, coming before the general public and making these various statements, saying that they, as you said, these swords and weapons were kept in the houses to cut shrubs, swords were kept for self-defense, so on and so forth. And while these so-called politicians, so-called honourable members come before the general public and make these statements, there are people who are around them as well, as if to protect these politicians from what they are saying. We have to remember why we are saying this is to ascertain and differentiate between how this incident is now being politicized by the politicians for their petty agendas, to fulfill their petty agendas. We want to make that clear before we go on to this next few lines I want to say, and I want to elaborate to our viewers as well. Sharon, now the main thing here is that these swords are being found from various places. There are crisp knives being found. There are other weapons being found. Amongst these weapons, the politicians come forward and say that they are for self-defense. Among these weapons are also weapons, explosive devices, gelatinite sticks that are found, detonators that are found. So all sorts of things are being found, Shalan, while these things are going on. So we have to raise the question at this time as to from whom do they deserve, from whom do they want this particular self-defense that they are talking about? What happens to the general public, the other general public who do not have maybe swords or weapons or explosive devices to find this self-defense that they are referring to. We want to raise that question as well. We are raising this question because these are the statements made by very responsible individuals connected to the political arena, coming before the media, coming before the general public, acting as if or thinking that the general public of this country are not wise enough to understand their political agendas, coming before the people and saying that these were here for the people, for their self-defense. This is because these politicians are making such statements. We remember right after, during the aftermath of the 21st April attacks, we remember senior security advisor came here on our show and said that explosives such as TATP had been used in the explosive devices. We heard how gelatinite sticks, detonators were found. We have to ask this question right now. Were they also for self-defense purposes? What were they for then, if the logic that they're trying to make, these politicians are trying to make, is that this is for self-defense and other purposes? That is the question, Shalan, that we have to make as well. And before we go, one more important factor. These people come before the general public, come before the media and make irresponsible, sometimes even shameful statements to say that this is what is happening. They fabricate what is happening in reality. They say what they want to, as if the people would take it as it is. But we want to raise this important point as well. Maybe the security forces, the TID, the CID and the police should take steps to look into the people who make such allegations, who make such statements as well. Maybe they are connected to what was happening, those involved in the carnage that happened in the country as well. This is a point to consider. Maybe look into the TID, the CID, the police, the security forces. Maybe look into the people who make such statements, because they too might be at the end of the day connected to those who are involved in the carnage that happened in the country, Shalan. That is the point that I'm trying to make here.